might get the first one done. I like that. Because so many times you go and you say prayer meeting and Bible study, and what it is a lot of Bible and very little prayer. So at least we do it the other way around, and I think that's good. So that's the good thing. We're talking about spiritual vision, and maybe there's a reason that we need to go slowly through that. We're starting with Proverbs 29:18, about where there is no vision, the people perish. And then we looked at the answer given to prayer in 2 Kings 6 with Elisha and Gehazi, his servant, and how God had already taken care of it, even though he wasn't aware. And I wonder how many things that you're concerned about tonight, or have been concerned about. And notice I didn't use the term worrying about. I just said concerned about. I gave you a way out there, see? I was being very nice. That come to find out, God's already got it taken care of. You just don't know, so you're concerned, worried about it ahead of time when you don't need to be. Job 42, verse 5 is where I'll start off and maybe get that, and the next one, which will be in Matthew 5. But prepare for afflictions. Do you ever prepare for afflictions? Do you ever think about, well, if something negative happens, how will I respond? Because a lot of times what we do during tough times and hard times, we don't act, we react. And when you react, you tend not to do the right thing all the time, because it's a reaction. We say a knee jerk sometimes. But in Job, get this up here. Might make a difference if I put it up where you could, or maybe we could hear it. Yeah, there we go. I knew I was forgetting something. I wonder Robert didn't throw something at me to get my attention. But anyhow, Job says, I have heard of thee by the hearing of the ear, but now mine eye seeth thee. So it's one thing to hear of people's troubles and their affliction, and to hear them tell you. It's another thing when you experience it yourself. It's another thing when you walk through that valley of the shadow of death, rather than you hear about somebody who gave testimony of doing it. Because you can only feel for them or have a sense of the pain that they're going through, but you don't really know till you've been there. And many of us, I'm sure, have experienced that in different ways. One of the things you need to avoid at all costs, saying to somebody that's going through a tough time, never, ever in your life tell them, I know what you're going through. I know how you feel. You absolutely do not know what they're going through. You do not know how they feel. Accept that as a fact as much as the chair you're sitting in tonight. You don't. You might want to. You might have experienced a similar circumstance, but you do not know what they're going through. So don't, because that's a very offensive statement to some people. So be careful. Even though, they had cancer, you had cancer. Big deal. It's not the same thing. You didn't walk the same mile in their moccasins. You can say, well, I don't understand, but I'm praying for you. Or you just put your hand on their shoulder for a second and say, I'm praying for you, and let it go with that. It's all we have to say. Don't assume that you know, and please don't tell them you do. But during these afflictions, what we need to do, we need to learn to talk to God. We need to learn to talk to God very intimately. Share your feelings, share everything that's going on. Because God does know what you're going through. In Isaiah 29, verses 17 through 20, it is not yet a very little while, and Lebanon shall be turned into a fruitful field, and a fruitful field shall be esteemed as a forest. And in that day shall the deaf hear the words of the book, and the eyes of the blind shall see out of obscurity and out of darkness. The meek also shall increase their joy in the Lord, and the poor among men shall rejoice in the Holy One of Israel. For the terrible one is brought to naught, and the scorner is consumed, and all that watch for iniquity are cut off. So we have to learn as best we can to walk through the trials, to not ask God to remove the trials, but ask God to give you strength through the trials. That's how you'll grow. That's how your spirit will become strong. And at the end, Lord willing, maybe you'll get to see the deliverance. Maybe you'll get to see other people like surprised that you actually made it through and still are praising God. What a testimony that is. It's better than turning back somewhere in between. Prepare for afflictions. Many people find it easy to serve God as long as everything's going well. Easy to serve God as long as there's money in the bank, we're healthy, food on the table. Man, I'm just serving God. But then when affliction comes, it's a struggle. It's hard. And I like that in Isaiah. They that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. See, sometimes with the Lord you can run. Other times you're doing good just to put one foot in front of the other. I mean, seriously, that's how spiritual life is. You're just lucky enough to be putting one foot in front of the other. But waiting on the Lord, watching the deliverance of God, prepare for afflictions, because woe unto the person who thinks being born again means everything is peaches and cream from there on out. Everything is just up, sunshine and roses from there on. It's not. It's not, and God never promised that. He just said He'll be with us through those trials. He'll be with us through those tough times. He'll be there for us. And so we have to understand that with spiritual vision. Now, the world will say, why don't you give up on God? What's He done for you? My goodness, look at the shape you're in. Everything's falling apart. Kind of like Job and his 3 friends. And I say that loosely, friends. Who would want friends like that? A wife. Oh, curse God and die. Wow. Thank you for that encouragement, honey. That's wonderful. Yeah, But the thing is, with God, that should be enough. But so many times we're so used to looking to others for that support network, and support networks aren't bad in and of themselves, but God is the only one you can really depend on 24/7. And we need to kind of get that through, even though it's tough. And it's tough for people to see that and understand that. Just hang in there. You really don't need to defend yourself. God will stand with you. I think Paul said something to the effect that in that day when he was accused, no man stood with him, save the Lord. And it was just him and God. So it's when we expect others, well, I thought you were my friend. Well, you're my brother. See, when we do that, that's when we can really get discouraged and get let down, when we look to people for that encouragement that we should be getting from God. God wants to be that for us. He doesn't want other people to be that. He wants to be that for us. And it's essential. Spiritual vision is essential to heart purity. Because in Matthew 5 and verse 8, and I like this. This really, it's the Beatitudes. It's really pretty cool. Sermon on the Mount stuff. Blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. Blessed are the pure in heart. You ever been falsely accused? You ever known that what you were doing, you're really doing it for God, but somebody, oh yeah, you're just doing it to get, so people think you're something, and oh, you just think you're somebody, you just want to be. We just have to brush that stuff off. Don't let that bother you. If you know they're wrong. The reason the hackles come up is when they have a point. It's when they kind of are right and it bugs you and bothers you because they're right and you know they're right. You were doing it for self aggrandizement, you were doing it to get the spotlight on you. But blessed are the pure in heart, for they shall see God. And I think about that, and I thought about that even today. Because we think about between Thanksgiving and Christmas, and probably most of us have lost a loved one. December 19th, that'll be the second year since my brother died. So we have that, and we know that, and I think, I wonder what he's looking at right now. I wonder what he's getting to see. Because talk about spiritual vision. I mean, when you pass from this life into eternity as a believer, my goodness, what there is to see. Because all we do, we imagine what it must be. We kind of use all the pictures and the beautiful scenery that we've seen in this life, and we wonder. And heaven is all the beauty you've seen here times a million. At least, if you could even say that. I mean, it's just so much greater. So it's worth it, but be pure in heart. Make sure you examine your motives for what you're doing. Make sure you check yourself for what you're doing. Are you doing it to be puffed up? Are you doing it to show someone else up? Are you doing it for pride? Or are you just doing it because God put it on your heart to do? And if that's the case, then just do it. Don't let what people say hinder you from doing what God put on your heart to do. Now, two things every pastor should be equipped with. Two things. He should have a huge heart. And he should have the skin or the hide of a rhinoceros. And if you've ever been, you know what I'm talking about. Because the very people you put yourself out on the limb for and try to help eventually will stick the butcher knife in your back and twist it. Not all of them, mind you, but they're just here and there along the way. But that's why you never do it for any other reason other than God put it on your heart to do. Because then if you do it because God put it on your heart to do, you weren't really looking for anything anyway. Sometimes I've had people over the years, well, what'd you help them for? I didn't think they're ever going to come back to church or come to church. I didn't do it so they'd come to church. I did it because God put it on my heart to help them. If they come to church, good. If they don't, good. Not going to worry about it. And that's how we have to be. We have to make sure that we have a pure heart in the things we do. Now think about it for just a second, and I'll wrap it up, put a bow on it with that. When, and I'm not trying to bring up bad stuff because it is Thanksgiving, when did you really put yourself out there with a pure heart and somebody judges you wrongly? Now you say, when? Which time? I mean, And I get it. But the thing is, hopefully, you were able to just brush it aside and keep on. Because here's what you don't do. You don't carry it with you. Because then everybody else starts out with you in the hole. Now, probably most of you, and prior to me being a pastor, and even once I was a pastor, I mean, I've had pastors do stupid stuff to me and say dumb stuff about me. I mean, I've had that happen. But big deal. You know, for me, I mean, big deal. So most of you've had a pastor do something, and lack of a better word, stupid. I mean, something that you would think a pastor like, what? I can't believe you did that. So to me, that's, you know, whatever word you want to put there, you can water it down for me. That would be good. But number one, he's human. Okay, human. One thing about being human, we make mistakes. And sometimes we're actually prideful enough to do it on purpose. So it's really not a mistake, and you know it wasn't. But still, don't carry that with you. Let it go. Don't bring that baggage with you. Just leave it go. Because if you bring it with you, then everybody you see from that point on, you're judging with that, and so you're putting them in a hole. My famous saying, being a Pittsburgh boy, Keith, if you start me out in the hole, don't ever expect me to climb out, because I'm not ever going to try to. Because I didn't put myself in the hole. You put me there because of someone else. So for me, my attitude is I'm happy staying here. Just leave everybody, let them start ground level with you. And if they want to dig a hole, let them dig their own. Because over the years, and my sweetheart here, she said to me different times, I guess it's okay for me to say it. She says, well, I thought they were our friends. I thought they were our friends. But listen, here's the bow I was putting on it. There is a friend that sticketh closer than a brother. And that's Jesus. That's why we always look to him. Looking unto Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith. Just look to him. Because people will disappoint. Spiritual vision, look beyond. What's the devil trying to trip you up with? Spiritual vision. You can do it. Father, I thank you for your love for your